Now, no matter how much you may or may not be excited for the Rise of Skywalker, one aspect of the film I think most fans are excited about or looking forward to, and have always loved about these films, is the score brought to us by John Williams. Because, as I've said so many times before, not only are they brilliant on their own, but you simply cannot overstate how important his work has been to Star Wars, how his soundtracks have elevated the films to another level, and have become an integral part of the Star Wars experience. And if it wasn't for them, if instead George Lucas had gone with a more standard sci-fi soundtrack with A New Hope, which back then they tended to rely heavily on synthesizers and tried to sound futuristic, you could say, I'm not sure I'm here talking about Star Wars right now, or that pretty much anyone is talking about Star Wars right now. I mean, try to imagine it's May of 1977, and you're in a darkened theater watching this movie called Star Wars for the very first time, and you can't deny it looks pretty cool and all, but it sounds like this. And yeah, it likely wouldn't have been quite that cheesy or bad, but hopefully you get what I'm going for here. Hopefully it begins to show just how much the music helps sell the movie, especially the excitement and emotional impact of it. And for the last 40 plus years now, John Williams has been doing that. He's been helping tell the incredible story of Star Wars in his own special and magical way, giving us musical pieces that have done everything from inspire hope and joy to filling us with dread and sadness, pieces so iconic they immediately conjure into our minds classic scenes and characters. And come this December, he'll be doing all of that for the very last time. Because The Rise of Skywalker will be the 87-year-old composer's final Star Wars film, and from the sounds of it, or what his brother Don has said, who he's often worked closely with over the years, this last soundtrack will be an homage or tribute to everything Star Wars he's done before. The new score will use and include traces of every previous theme he's done, with his brother saying of it, I can tell you that every theme that you've heard is going to be compiled into this last effort. Leia, Yoda, Phantom, Darth, all of it is going to be in there. And in his usual style, he hides them. You gotta go look for them. And I don't know if it's sad or just shows my level of appreciation for Williams and his work, but as of right now, of all the things I've heard about Episode 9, whether they be leaks, rumors, or cold hard facts, this has me the most excited. This has me looking forward to seeing the film, knowing that Williams is going to do something special like this with his last Star Wars hurrah. And no, I'm not trying to sell this movie to anyone. I completely understand those of you who are going to pass on it in theaters or maybe even altogether. You do you, especially with your own money. All I'm saying is this sounds like it could be amazing, and it's disappointing that I'm not more vested in this story and these characters in the sequel trilogy right now. Because imagine the last battle between Kylo Ren and Rey, which we've been told we are getting and that it's supposed to look and be epic. And while you're watching it, you're hearing hints of Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, and maybe some of Jedi Fury mixed in there as well, which, if you don't know, is that hauntingly beautiful piece that plays in Return of the Jedi after Vader threatens Leia and Luke screams never and attacks him. The thought of such a scene in Episode 9 both gives me chills and makes me a bit angry at the same time, because this movie does have an uphill battle ahead of it to truly add some weight to this final encounter between Kylo Ren and Rey with the story, not just John Williams' music, that the previous two movies, at least in my opinion, have failed to already get us to the point where we're anxiously awaiting such a final battle. And speaking of those characters, thus far it's been those two themes, Rey's and Kylo's, that have really stood out to me in the sequel trilogy and been by far the most memorable. And no, I don't mean to really criticize John Williams after praising him for the first part of this video, but overall I'm not sure the sequel trilogy has been on par with the prequels or originals in the score department, though that could have a lot to do with me just not enjoying the movies as much. Which is all the more reason I hope Williams pulls off one last true masterpiece with Episode 9, both in terms of the overall score and one piece that just stands out from the rest, something at least approaching the level of Duel of the Fates or Imperial March that just forever resonates with fans and is really considered the theme of this whole new trilogy. But even if he pulls that off, which he's certainly capable of, it's all for naught if Episode 9 ends up being not a very good movie. And one of the reasons I am rooting for its success, why I still have hope that it can be a good movie despite what I and others may think or feel about the last two films, is that this is it. This is going to be a lot of last times for Star Wars. Last time we'll see Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. Last time we'll likely see Mark Hamill as Luke or Billy Dee as Lando. Last time we'll ever hear a new Star Wars piece of music from John Williams. Then there's the recent passing of Peter Mayhew, who, though won't be in this movie, was in the suit a bit in The Force Awakens and was a mentor to the current Chewbacca. And so, yeah, I understand the issues people have with Disney Star Wars. Believe me, I do. I've made plenty of videos on it. And I get the mindset of wanting it to fail because screw Disney, or if it fails bad enough, maybe Kathleen Kennedy gets fired and they'll rethink the whole approach with the franchise. But I want Episode 9 to be good for everyone who truly deserves this movie to be good. I'm not just talking the fans, I'm also talking about those who have been putting in the work over the decades. And to those of you who wonder why I can get so worked up over these movies, why the way some of the old characters were treated in this new trilogy was so disappointing to me, and why I droned on and on about it, and still do from time to time, well, it's because they're not just characters, there's actually people behind them. And I'm not even just talking the actors who play the characters, but everyone else who has given so much to bring these movies to life and love what they do. The people who do everything from design and create costumes to build sets to work on the CGI and all the way down to the janitor who's cleaning up after the fact. And as I've said before, and this came up a lot when Season 8 of Game of Thrones was what everyone was talking about, and there was a petition by the fans to remake the final season. Generally, the blame for the failure of these shows or movies falls on the people at the top, on the writers, directors, producers, and so on. And when fans get upset, it's usually not meant to be directed at those doing the grunt work, those who are simply doing what they're told and putting everything they've got into the project. It's the people making the calls that they're blaming. And so it's hard for me to root against Episode 9. It's hard for me to want to see it fail, even if it would somehow guarantee big changes at Lucasfilm, which I wouldn't mind seeing. Because, like I said, this is it for a lot of these people who have brought so much joy to my life and the lives of so many others. And for a guy like John Williams, who you could argue deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the success of Star Wars, right up there with George Lucas himself even, I somehow want his last Star Wars score, his swan song, to end up being considered among his best works ever. And that's going to be very hard to pull off if the movie it plays over isn't all that good. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think. Are you excited for the last works of John Williams? What have you thought about his efforts in the sequel trilogy thus far? And do you think he has one last true masterpiece left in him somewhere? Because I do. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.